Welcome back to the channel. My name is Ryan, and for the first time in probably a month, I'm doing a football video. The past time I've been doing politics and stuff of that nature. But today, we are changing the topic. We're discussing my opinion for who's going to be the Heisman frontrunners, and I'll give my Heisman prediction in this video. Last year, I gave like 12 candidates, a lot of honorable mentions in the top 5. My winner was actually Caleb Williams, which did not happen, but I did have Michael Penix finishing second. I had my second prediction. He was the guy I thought was going to be second. There we go. I got it right on that part. But overall, not the best time predicting. But this time, I have 2 honorable mentions and I have a normal top 5. So let's just get straight into it. Last year's winner was Jaden Daniels. It was between him and Michael Penix for the number 1 spot, depending on what you thought. If you care more about the stats part, which a lot of people did, it's Jaden Daniels. If you care about the winning aspect with production value, I would say Michael Penix would win it, and that's how I look at things. So a lot of things in here we'll be talking about big game setups, and also just a logistical view of everything. I'll have an honorable mention on here that you might not like, but he's going to be on here. Okay, let's talk about 2 of my honorable mentions. One is Ollie Gordon. Ollie Gordon is the best running back in the country right now. He's the running back at Oklahoma State. He's phenomenal, but the problem is running backs have a tendency not to win the Heisman. Last one to win it, I believe, was Derrick Henry. It's been a while ago. We've had a wide receiver win it more recently than a running back has. And it's just Alabama running backs. It's nothing else. I mean, McCaffrey had an opportunity, but it was still the same year as Derrick Henry. So it's kind of like, if Saquon couldn't win it, I don't believe anyone else this year will. But Ollie Gordon is the best running back in the country. They have probably the highest shot outside of a quarterback to win it. So that's why he's an honorable mention. Also, he's at Oklahoma State. So unless if he goes crazy, I doubt he'll get the same recognition as someone from an Alabama or Florida State or an Ohio State or anything of that nature. Other than honorable mention, a lot of people, again, won't like this, but Quinn Ewers. And the problem is not his skill ability, not his players on his team ability, not because his team's not good and he doesn't have good weapons to use. It's not because of that, and it's not because of him, specifically his ability to play. It's because the past 2 years as a starter, he has missed at least 3 games. 1 year, he messed up his, I think I'm not sure if he broke his collarbone or something like that. He was out for like 6-7 weeks. Last year, he was out for 3-4 weeks, so he's been injury prone. And one thing about the Heisman, it's really, really tough to miss just 1 game in play and be the Heisman winner, let alone multiple. It's been a tendency of his to get injured for a significant amount of time. And if he's not injured, then he probably is top 3. But the problem is he keeps getting injured. So that's my reasoning. It's not his actual ability as a player, it's his availability. So let's discuss the top 5. Start at number 5. I got a guy that no one's really talking about, in my opinion, that deserves to be talked about. He's a guy from Arizona, the quarterback, Noah Fafita. Great quarterback. He missed a few games to start off the year. I don't think he started off as the starter. He got replaced after the loss against Mississippi State, and they only lost to USC at USC in triple overtime and against Washington by 7 points, the team that went on to win and make the national championship. This guy for Arizona is phenomenally good. He had 2,869 passing yards, 25 touchdowns off of only 6 interceptions. He got sacked 19 times. Not too bad at all. But the main thing you want to look at, we talk about QB percentages or just talk about completion percentages, and Carson Beck is usually the guy they look at. Oh, he passed like 72.4% last year. That's the same as Noah Fafita. Noah Fafita had the exact same completion percentage of 72.4%. He's really, really good. He's really accurate. He's very mobile. In a game against Oklahoma, he showed out. He did his job, and they ended up winning the game. I'm excited to see what this Arizona team is going to become. They're without Jed Fish. They're getting the new coach from San Diego State. San Jose State. My bad. But I believe he's going to be very, very good. He was only a sophomore last year. He's becoming a junior. His ability is phenomenal. His throwing the run's very, very good. His pocket awareness is good. The problem is he's a bit short, so sometimes he has to move around, and sometimes he just can't see the open man, or just get the ball over the line, I should say. He hits his open targets, which should say that. He's very accurate. Problem is, he plays in the Big 12. Compared to these two new super conferences, the Big 12 did not add up. I think they're the third best conference right now. But the Big 10 and the SEC are so high on the marquee games that people won't look at Arizona and be like, oh, I'm going to watch what they're doing. But he's going to have to really, really show out. He's going to have games against Kansas State and at Utah. If they win both games to start off this year, they have a very manageable stretch throughout the rest of it to be undefeated, let alone actually just make the conference championship. I believe they will win the conference championship, and it'll be because of this guy. They lost some talent, but overall they kept a good amount of players compared to what other teams do whenever their coach leaves. They've kept a good amount of talent, and I believe they'll be very, very good. Their defense is very underrated, so it won't be like, I don't think they'll be in super high-scoring games, which will lead Noah Fifita to just have their offense do enough, but he will do more than just enough. He's exceptional. If they need a shootout, that's perfectly fine. He's very, very good. Hopefully I'll be showing up some clips of what he's been doing, because he's very, very good. Next up, number 4, Nico Iamaleava. I said his name right. I know. It's been I told you I was going to say his name right at one point. I finally got Nico Iamaleava. Why he's on this list? Because his ability on the field that he showed against Iowa is exceptional. His pocket awareness is very, very good. His accuracy is there. He should have had a touchdown if Ramel Keaton knew how to finish a route. But let's pass on that. And playing against a top 5 defense in the country of Iowa, he had 3 rushing touchdowns. He went 13 for 19 from the field, from passing. They ran the ball most of the game because they could. Their defense was very, very good. And right now, Nico Iamaleava, everyone's talking about his ability as a thrower. I think his ability as a runner will be huge. When we look at what Milton did last year at Tennessee, the main problem people talk about was his accuracy. Yes, it was. I think second was his pocket awareness. As someone who watched a ton of Tennessee, his pocket awareness was horrendous compared to what Hendon Hooker was just a year before. Nico Iamaleava is a lot more like Hendon Hooker than he is Joe Milton. Physique-wise, accuracy-wise, everything about him just shows that you can put the highlight tape up for Hooker and the highlight tape that we have of Nico, and it's very similar. Mainly their twitch ability on the runs and their ability to command the offense. Very high up there. In your first game against Iowa, a very, very good defense that's known to contain quarterbacks. He did very well. He did very, very well. And also their offensive line is pretty good. They got Cooper Mays returning, who's a preseason All-American. He's probably the best center, in my opinion, arguably in the country, but especially in the conference. They have a great running back at Dylan Sampson, which screams Alvin Kamara type of player. He wears the same number too, and he goes to the same school, and he plays similar. And also, I believe he's more of a Tevin Coleman type of guy. Remember him? Remember him from the Falcons. Great running back, had great spin move, great agility, everything of that nature. But I think he's a bit more like Tevin Coleman and Kamara. That's my kind of mix I think he has, if you know him. But yeah, Brim McCoy returning. You got Chris Brazell coming from Tulane. He's very, very good. And then you got Squirrel White returning as some of the best hands. They got the new tight end coming up from Notre Dame. And overall, his ability on the field is very, very exceptional. They got Chris Nimrod. They have Webb. And they also got Mike Matthews. If Mike Matthews gets into this offense this year, he will show why he was a great prospect heading into this year. I know he's a freshman, but I believe in the next 3 years he will prove himself as being a top 5 receiver in the country. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Problem is, we have not seen him play against SEC opponents. And that's a little bit different. If you've not seen him play a full season, we're going to have to see how it is. His hype is really high, but with Heupel's offense, I think he'll be very, very well win. But again, you're playing Georgia, you're playing Bama, you're at Oklahoma, you're playing against an NC State team, which you have to, don't sleep on their defense. They're very good defensively. They have a lot of big game abilities, a lot of big games that they're going to have to win in. I would say a very underrated one, which people aren't talking about, is Florida. I would be more worried about the Florida game than Oklahoma. Why? Because Florida has routinely got in Tennessee's way every single year. I know Oklahoma's big. I know it's a humongous matchup, but we're talking about history. Since 2004, Florida has beaten them every year but 2. You know what? We look at those quarterbacks, Josh Dobbs and Hendon Hooker, probably the 2 best quarterbacks since 2004. Let's be honest. You have to have a great quarterback to be able to beat Florida if you're a Tennessee team. And if Nico can beat them, you have a lot of potential for the rest of the year. I know the Oklahoma game's huge, but you got to beat your rivals, and Florida is arguably the main one. It arguably is. Number 3 on my list is Carson Beck. Carson Beck, very, very good player. Very, very accurate. We talked about his completion percentage earlier, 72.4%. I'm going to give you a stat real quick. I'm going to compare his times he was sacked compared to Milroe, and I just want you to think about it. I know Milroe is a scrambler, but the differential is huge. The amount of times Jalen Milroe has been sacked last year was 44 times. 44. The amount of times Carson Beck was sacked, 11. The O-line's a big difference. The O-line's a big difference. You don't have to worry about getting sacked again on Georgia's offensive line. Bama, I know they made some improvements, but again, Milroe likes to scramble a lot. But that's a lot. This just shows how good Georgia's offensive line is. That team made the playoffs for Bama. This team here has a phenomenal offensive line. They have a great running back coming in of ETN, coming from Florida. They have really good wide receivers still. I would say the main one is Dylan Bell. His ability, he hurt my Tennessee team. Yeah, I think a passing touchdown, a receiving touchdown, and I think a rushing touchdown, at least one of those two. He did really, really good that game. His accuracy for Beck is great. His deep ball accuracy is very, very well. And he has a lot of games to prove it. He opens up against Clemson, which is definitely not a sleeper defense. If anything heading to that game, you got to look at Clemson's defense. It's probably a top 15, top 10 defense in the country. You got to work on that. And if you start off very well there, you play Bama. You're going to be able to show out there. It's at Bryant-Denny. And then you have to play Texas. Then you have to play Ole Miss. Then you have to play Tennessee. And you have to worry about that sleeper games of like I'm not sure about Kentucky's a sleeper game. You can whoop Kentucky. But we're talking about like the Floridas it's a rivalry game, so we got a little worry about. I don't know how good Florida's really going to be. Again, they could go 6-6 and would have probably won the conference in the ACC. You just don't know. You just really don't know until you see them on the field. But Beck will have a lot of games to show out. And with this offensive line, he has a lot of potential to make humongous plays, Heisman moment caliber. Problem is, he's without Brock Bowers, he's without Ladd McConkey. Without those two, that's huge. Bowers single-handedly made one-on-one matchups for everyone on the outside. You couldn't... Bowers, I truly believe, is the main reason why they won back-to-back national championships. It went from, we have a run game, and we're to use that, and then we use our tight ends at times, with no huge number one receiver on the other side, to we have a guy in the middle that you have to guard. Have to guard. And then let one-on-one and everyone else. I'm back. I had something to do. But Brock Bowers was the main reason why I believe, because it caused matchup nightmares. If they can find someone like that over the middle, Beck will probably be the front runner. But that's a very tough guy just to replace. Brock Bowers, a great blocker, very, very good tight end. And Ladd McConkey, who has some of the best route running ability in the country at the time. One-on-one, he would beat you every single time. He couldn't run man. It was very tough to run zone because they could beat you that way because of the great offensive line they had. And the middle, you had the double, pretty much, of Brock Bowers. And even then, it was very tough. Without that, it's going to be a little bit more tough. But again, Beck's ability, accuracy-wise, and with the weapons you have around him, you probably make up for it. But the also big thing is, you're playing very, very good teams. They will be ready, and you got to be even more ready to face them. So here we go. Number 2, Jalen Milroe. Jalen Milroe on this list. Why? I think the main reason is because of Kalen DeBar coming in. Kalen DeBar coming in, you saw what he did with Michael Penix. He's a great, great head coach. And it shows already with his recruiting. He's the number 1 class, and people thought it was going to fall down. If anything, it arguably got better. It's really weird, but it's Stray. Stray's the thing about that, but they have the number 1 class right now. It just shows how good of a coach he is. I mean, last year, let's discuss Jalen Milroe real quick. He was benched 1 game, which I don't think should have ever happened. You can go back to when I talked about it. I thought Milroe was clearly the starter, but I guess they had to see that game for the fan base to realize these 2 guys cannot play quarterback to the level Jalen Milroe can. I'm going to discuss one thing about Milroe when it comes to stats. His passing yards, 2,834, 23 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 65% completion percentage, rounded up at 66. Not bad. But the main thing I'm going to look at is 531 rushing yards and 12 touchdowns. Off of rushing. It dominated against LSU in that realm. Had 4 against them, over 120 yards rushing. This guy is really, really good at running. And with the offense they have, with the running backs they have, like Justice Haynes, you have J.M. Miller, you have a lot of really, really good running backs. And with Kalen DeBar, with his offensive plans and how he's able to use them, he can get these guys in open space, which will lead to great play action, which Milroe, outside of Jaden Daniels, I would say, or even match Jaden Daniels' deep ball efficiency, going deep against anyone, and his ability to run was going to be just a wonderful sight for Kalen DeBar. Because Kalen DeBar loves using quarterbacks that can go deep and using good run game. And Michael Penix is not a scrambler. He used to kind of be, but not anymore. And because he's had like 5 leg injuries that were very severe, and he still was great. He still was great. I think his accuracy will get better. I expect around 68 to 70 from Milroe. I wouldn't be surprised if it lands around the same, though, because you don't have a guy like Jermaine Burton. Isaiah Bond's not there. You have other guys who's going to be able to step up, but it's going to be different. It's going to be very, very different. You got like the guys like the Kendrick Laws of the world, the Kobe Princess, but it's going to be heavily different because Jermaine Burton was the main deep guy. The main deep guy. I mean, just watch the game against Texas A&M. They won the game because of his ability to go deep. That was the only reason why they had any ability offensively. No one could guard him. And against Georgia, Jermaine Burton was the main guy. I would say even against Tennessee, Jermaine Burton was the main guy, but Isaiah Bond was not far behind. Against Georgia, the last drive was just Isaiah Bond. The gravedigger was Isaiah Bond, and now he's at Texas. So without him there, what's going to happen? I don't know, but I know Kalen DeBar is a great offensive mind. I'm interested to see how Bama's defense is going to play, but again, it's Jalen Milroe. His ability as a runner, if this offensive line is improved, and mainly center, the amount of times they could not snap a ball correctly is arguably the reason why they lost the game against Michigan, because that snap was pitiful to start off the play. If he gave him more time, he probably could have crept through the hole, and we might have had a tie game going into double overtime. Who knows? Who knows? I don't know. You don't know. But we knew the result would happen, and they switched up their center. They switched up, which is probably a good thing. We saw his development from the start of last year to the end. What development will he make now? We shall see. Sometimes he did miss the open man on short routes. Sometimes he didn't take the check down when he should have, but he got better at that. He got better. Sometimes he put the ball in harm's way, but that was mainly early on in the year. And again, that's why he ended up the year with only 6 interceptions. That's pretty good. By the way, if you wanted to know, I just kind of forgot to mention, here's Carson Beck's stats. Almost 4,000 yards, 3,941, which is very good. 24 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Also, another thing about Carson Beck, I think sometimes his touchdowns will go down. His possible touchdowns will go down. It's going to be the problem that Michael Penix had, that they can get down to the 5, but they hand it off to Dylan Johnson every single time. It's going to be the same thing. If you have Etienne in your back, well, this is arguably the best running back in the SEC. Give him the ball at the goal line. But we shall see. And number 1 on this list, the recent, actually, I made this list before this came out. He's right now the odds-on favorite to win the Heisman, Dylan Gabriel from Oregon. Why? Oregon has been a place that QBs have won, mainly Marcus Mariota. Bo Nix was in the running just last year. So these guys have been pretty good when it comes to Oklahoma. Come to Oregon. My fault. And Oklahoma. I mean, Oklahoma's been great when it comes to quarterbacks, and now Oregon. So it's a good mixture right there. It's a good winning mixture of possible the Heisman. And also, the main thing is this Heisman's have been transfers recently. Unless you're from Alabama, unless your name is Devontae Smith or Bryce Young, it's been a transfer. Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Joe Burrow, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and now I believe Dylan Gabriel. Last year, let's discuss that. 69.3% passing percentage, 3,660 yards passing, 30 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions, and he ran for 373 yards and the same amount of touchdowns as Milroe had of 12. You might not look at him as the same type of guy. He's not a guy that's going to run through you, but he can definitely score on those rushing touchdowns. And the only losses they had last year were very, very close games. I believe the defense was the main reason why they didn't beat Kansas. I would say that. They led over 30 points on Kansas. And then Oklahoma State, there was a questionable penalty late. Very, very, very questionable. Could have been pass interference. But Anyways, I believe at Oregon they have a very good winning formula up there. The only losses they've had was against Washington. Only thing that's really stopped them is Washington. Outside of that, they ran through pretty much every other team last year without a struggle. Maybe outside of Texas Tech. Or very early on in the year. But you look at their schedule, it's nothing really, really difficult. You have Ohio State at home. At Oregon at home. And that's huge. That's their most difficult game. That's without a doubt. But you have them at home. And if you win that game, you're the front runner. Unless if it's like a 10-9 game that your defense gets a pick six in, pretty much. And that's the case, that'd be crazy. Because these offenses are stacked. And I'm not saying these defenses aren't, but usually when two offenses are that stacked, someone's bound to score, type of thing. But you also play at Michigan. That's not an easy place to play at. We will see by then. It's later on in the year. We'll see by then how Michigan is. Are they a potential playoff team or are they closer to 500? I'd be surprised if they're closer to 500. But it's possible. It's definitely possible. But the defense will probably be very, very good. But he has great playmakers. They got Evan Stewart, one of the best transfers possible as a wide receiver coming from A&M, who was looked at as a great prospect. And he still is. I think he's still a very, very good wide receiver. The run game is going to be good. Everything about this O-line's good. They're not playing super tough competition. They will probably cook the Wisconsin defenses of the world. The Big Ten, they will show us up. And I believe Oregon will be very, very good. I believe they will make the Big Ten championship. And Dillon Gabriel will be the main reason why. I got Dillon Gabriel winning the Heisman. I think his stats will get better. I think he will probably get closer to 4,000 passing yards and around 45, 50 total touchdowns. And if he can keep his efficiency to around 68, 69% with under 8 interceptions, who says he can't win the Heisman? That's Heisman stats right there. That's what Jaden Daniels did similar without the rushing yards. Which is, no one's going to match his rushing yards. I mean, we don't have a Lamar Jackson out this year, unless if Jalen Miro goes insane, which I don't think that's going to happen under DeBar's offense. He's not going to get 1,000 yards rushing. And if he does, I would be surprised. But you can't say never. It's definitely possible. It's just unlikely, in my opinion. So that is my opinion on who the Heisman favorites are. Again, Quinn Ewers will probably be on this list if he wasn't consistently getting injured. If he stays healthy, there you go. Also, a deep sleeper. It's no one's probably not being talked about. A deep sleeper. Brady Cook. Watching for Brady Cook is the number one wide receiver in the country, and with Nevada's defense being that good, I would say not as good. He's going to have to score a lot, and they have a very good schedule. It's the easiest in the SEC. So he's going to get his stats up. He plays against Bama. If he's able to beat Bama, who knows? Who knows? But yeah, that is my opinion. Give your opinion in the comments about this. Again, it's nice to be back doing sports for a minute. We're about 2 days away from NFL being back for preseason. We'll see how these new rules look, and it's going to be kind of weird. But yeah, we have this. College football starts in less than a month. That is great to hear. Subscribe if you want to hear more of this. We'll be discussing this and probably a bit more politics because it's an election year, and those get views. So let's just do that. Hope you have a great day, y'all. Stay safe. Put on the comments your opinions about this. Hope you have a great day, y'all. Stay safe, and God bless you.